Good afternoon, brokers. Hope you've had a successful trading day. Let's bring the market to a close. Can we have the closing prayers, please?
Shall we pray?
The closing gong there from the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange live, bringing to an end trading for the first working day of the week. Business editor Effiong Ekop will join us in the course of the show for more incisive analysis on today's proceedings at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Welcome to Business Nigeria. I am Tolulokpe Ogunjobi. A warm welcome to you again. Now, a team of Chinese geologists have discovered massive deposits of solid minerals across different local government councils in Cross River State. And the State Commissioner for Solid Minerals Development, George Obenechi, said the discovery followed a work partnership between the state government and China. The Cross River State government has already signed several agreements with Chinese geologists to check out natural resources available in the area. Among solid minerals found in commercial quantities in the states are uranium, iron ore, coal, kaolin, marbles, and limestones. Obenechi said the identification of these resources will enable the state government to talk to investors. Inconsistent government policies are believed to be reasons behind Nigeria's weak economy. A study of company performances in the third quarter of this year shows losses by many firms as productivity declined in many sectors of the economy. Economic observers and analysts Shehu Malam Mikhal noted that unpredictable government policies have caused poor performances by manufacturing, industrial and services sectors. Mikhal called on the government to evolve sound macro management of public resources for national growth. Nigeria's external reserves improved in months by $8 billion to hit $33 billion. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria showed a 30% increment in the reserves during the period. The rise in national reserves was attributed to relatively stable oil prices. Investors' confidence in the economy was also seen as another source that boosted growth of reserves. A great development there. Well, in other stories now, Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said foreign direct investments inflow into Africa is expected to grow from $56.5 billion, that's last year, 2016, to $57.5 billion by the end of this year. According to the Vice President, African economies have performed better than global average expectations as a result of good governance, enabling business environment, macroeconomic stability, large markets, and widening domestic demand, amongst others. He said African continents have become the second fastest growing foreign direct investment destination in the world. An accountant, Lester Wilcox, joins me via phone to talk more on this. And also joining via Skype is Nemeka Obiariri. He's also a financial analyst. Many thanks for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Lester, I'm going to start with you now. The issue of the improvement seen in the reserves is one that is commendable. Many are saying, well, it's attributed to the stability in the price of crude oil. But what do you make? Because this brings investors' confidence, which is what we need.
Well, the external reserve is a combination of many factors. I need to make that point clear. It's not only the receipts from crude oil, but also partly the inflows of FDI, foreign direct investment into the economy. I want to know that Nigerian economy is one that the world cannot allow, cannot neglect for, because there are potentials in the economy. And because of the potentials in the economy, the world can never allow the economy to, Nigeria is not a place that anybody can allow. There might be challenges here and there. And it's clear that in the first 2 years of this government, there were a lot of policy trials here and there in order to stabilize the financial market. And from every indication now, with statistics coming up, we discover that the economy has been so stabilized now to the point where people are now becoming to have more confidence in the economy. So with this confidence now, people will now begin to troop in to invest in the economy. And again, considering the fact that the government has been very, very stringent with the forest policy, to the extent that forests are allocated to only needy areas, and which is a policy that yes was criticized in the first instance, but that was what is needed to be done because of the scarcity then. And now there has been that tight control, and there has been that savings, and we are now receiving the benefit. So in the long run, this will continue because this is a government that is focused. This is a government that is determined to redirect how we've been prefigurating our spending pattern. And so you discover that nothing short of the kind of successes we are seeing now that can continue for a long time, so long as this kind of indices are still on the ground.
Now, Nemeka, I'm going to ask you the same question with regards to the reserves, you know, appreciating at least there's been marginal improvement in reserves, and this is actually giving kind of stability. And of course, foreign direct investments, investors will look at this for them to know how they can also recuperate funds. Now, on the positives now, Nemeka, tell me, what do you make? Many have agreed that some policies are working right. That is why we are doing this well. 24 points, World Bank report. Nemeka, put this together. What do you make?
Tokwe, crude oil outputs inched up from 1.2 million barrels a day to the current level of about 1.9 to 2 million barrels a day, because we were able to manage activities of Nigeria Avengers and stop them from vandalizing our oil pipeline. Crude oil prices in the global market has been stable at between the 55, today is $62 per barrel. That is the only reason why our foreign reserve is increasing. Providence has been good to us. The price of oil and gas in the international market has been on the upside. Now we must understand that the daily consumption of the PMS, of the crude oil, is about 93 million barrels per day. And with the diversification and the quest by Western countries to go greenery through movement to other sources of energy, countries like Britain, countries like France, countries like Japan, European countries have mooted the idea that in the next 10 to 15 years, in fact, Volvo by 2019 will start massive production of electric cars. I will tell you this, the demand for the fossil fuel will keep on going down in the next short to medium term. Now, there is nothing so exciting about it. If you look at the other foreign exchange window through which will have been attracting monies into Nigeria, the exporters, investors window, the investors window through which FDIs have been bringing in money, you will discover that over the last 6 months, from April till now, we've gotten inflow of about $18 billion. These are inflow that are mainly driven because of the appetite for those portfolio investors to ride the waves. Our debt instruments, both on the side of the treasury bills and the bonds that the federal government of Nigeria are issuing, gives far higher return than these investors that can get from anywhere in the whole world. Looking at the moderating effect of the efficiency of the CBN in driving foreign exchange stability, these guys know that in the short run, within the next 2 quarters, that they will still enjoy the ride. But I can tell you something, Tokwe. We are not sure that the price of crude oil will remain at this level in the long run. We don't control the price of crude oil in the international market. Next month, January, it may come down to $43. And remember, at this level, the shale production will rev up. And once shale production revs up, once supply gets above demand, the market will crash. We don't have control over that market. And for the other window through which we have garnered $18 billion, I will tell you, by the time we enter into the electionary season, first quarter, second quarter of 2018, most of these hot money investors, for reason of uncertainty, will start pulling out their funds to watch and see what is going to happen as we move towards 2019. The volume of inflow that comes through that window may not be as much as we are having it now. That is the reality that most of us are not trying to accept as the reality. I am very optimistic that this economy ticks the right boxes. But we need to start pulling muscles in the areas of the physical side. What do we do to ensure that we get foreign direct investment into the agri sector? What do we do to ensure that we get foreign direct investment by way of the PPP in the railway side to ensure that we get concessioners, not direct borrowing? We can get private concessioners, railway operators, network operators offshore. Give them the right incentives, provide them with the right incentives. They will come here, take over our existing rail line, do the new ones if the right incentives are there. I have always used one country as an example. Look at South Africa. Look at Netherlands. The Netherlands economy exports over $129 billion worth of agri products. They have land mass that is almost 1/20th of our land mass. Their rail business, their rail network generates over $14 to $15 billion every year, an income of about $4 billion for the operators. Netherlands does not have the kind of vast and beautiful demography that we have in Nigeria. If Netherlands can do it, if they can do it in South Africa, bros, you cannot reinvent the wheel. All we need to do is, what are they doing in those climes that have made them attractive to investors? We can replicate them here. I will tell you the truth. Investors are not Father Christmas. Investors go to any economy to tick the right boxes, and we can do it here if we are serious.
All right, I know we can't do it. Alistair, with all of this positives coming out, and many have said that we're on the path of growth, but Nnemeka still seems to pick holes in some of this. What's your assessment of public-private partnership, particularly with regards to our infrastructure?
Sorry, can you come again? I didn't get that.
Alistair, I'm talking about public-private partnership, which everybody has advised government to take advantage of. How far would you say we've gone with that?
Well, public-private partnership, it's a funding instrument. It's used where government is the richest, which is which has been practiced in Nigeria. But the problem with us in the country is most of those schemes do not really see the light of the day as they are supposed to see. But if that's successful, the field that's successful was just, that can easily be latched on is the second the domestic wing of the Mazwa Mohammed Airport, which is a very, very wonderful PPA that was quite successful. But most of them has not been very successful, and that's why people are skeptical. But it's not a bad idea for governments to really, really be committed to such arrangements. And for such arrangement to work, there must be honesty on this both part, and there must be capacity. Most often than none, persons who are involved in those things do not have the capacity. For instance, look at what has happened to our power infrastructure. It's also a PPA. A PP arrangement, because the government gives some shares, some shares in those areas. But look at the capacity and the technology and the competencies. So if there is that sincerity of purpose between both parties, and Nigerians are committed in carrying out a proper job for the country, even be it from foreign partners, from domestic funding, I think it is something that should bet they really must be watertight. Because what we have today is people come in, take government money, rob government in name of PPA, and then disappear the thing here. And our legal environment, legal architecture is so weak to be put to justice. So it's a work in progress. Nigeria, every aspect of our life remains a work in progress. But until we begin to have committed men, committed people that will see the nations first, know that whatever actions or inaction that is taken in the country is towards should be geared towards the country good. Then we can be thinking of things like that. These are good arrangements. But I tell you, with mindset Nigerians have, and we kind of we've had so far on this kind of arrangement, I think people will be skeptical. I, for one, will feel very skeptical, and I think government should go ahead. So long as we do not have that competency, government should go ahead. A little they can do, take them one at a time, and begin to deliver the goods of democracy. I think that's the best way to go.
All right. Nnemeka, now the Vice President, this report we have says foreign direct investment is expected to hit $56.2 million. That's, at least that's by the end of 2017 from the reports we have. There's supposed to be an upsurge, an improvement in what we've seen. And CBN is also projecting that by mid next year, if we continue at this pace, inflation will drop to 9%. That's their projection. The World Bank has also come to support this, that yes, if Nigeria continues at this pace, we would achieve this. Nnemeka, there are some possibilities here.
Tokwe, I tell you that Nigeria economy ticks the right boxes. Tokwe, I can also tell you that for us to grow our critical infrastructure needs, for us to grow this infrastructure, develop it to the right levels, in 25 to $30 billion sustainable basis annually every year into this country by way of foreign direct investments in infrastructure projects. Now, I tell you this, investors will be very, very glad to come to Nigeria to invest. Nigeria ticks the right boxes for its investor, but we must put in place the right physical frameworks, the right policies, put round pegs in round holes to drive these processes. I hear the last speaker talk about government doing the little that they can do. Everything that is wrong in this country is wrong because the government and those in the public sector have not done the right thing that they are supposed to do. I will tell you, the government good policies serves as the catalytic engine that will drive private sector to participate actively. Governments do not run economy. What governments do, they provide policies. It is the private sector that generates employment. It is the private sector that drives every economy that is successful in the whole world. Look at developed economies and see how their structures run. What are we doing in the public sector? He gave the example of the power sector reform that is not working. It is not working because of the activities of those in the public sector. They sold our public assets to their cronies, mostly their cronies, who lacked both the financial and technical capacity to run most of the assets that they acquired. But they also fail to understand that when assets are sold to private investors, there is always a sales purchase agreement that is entered into between the federal government and those private asset holders.
Nnemeka Obiariri there. I know you can go on and on. The passion is there. I must thank Nnemeka Obiariri, financial analyst, and also Alex Wilcott, the both of them, Alex Wilcott, for their views on this very important issue, particularly with regards to the FDI. And Nnemeka, if you can hear me, my name is Tolu, not Tokpe, but it's Tolu Lokpe. Thank you very much, Wilcott. Alestra Wilcott, too, thank you very much for joining us. Well, after the break, TVC News business editor Effiong Ekop will be joining us live from the stock market. Please don't go away. It's still Business Nigeria. Glad to have you back. Financial analysts say government must sustain policies that has helped achieve the marginal growth witnessed in the economy. Speaking in reaction to the ease of doing business report by the World Bank that placed Nigeria 24 points ahead, analysts at this investment summit explained that the government needs to step up efforts at industrializing the economy. They want government to focus on improving technological processes that will help improve revenue generation for the non-oil sector.
Lagos capture what is happening in terms of industrialization, in terms of economy in the country, but we should not forget the subnationals, especially as it affects the majority of Nigerians. Yes, they're good steps. The key thing, the sustainability of those steps, that those are the very key steps to us, that we do not fall back to where we were before. So the key thing is for us to ensure that we adhere to things that we feel that they have made us to move forward, and also making sure that we do not do things that will make us go backwards.
Our economy is fairly well diversified. What is not diversified is the source of government revenues. So again, what we need are policies that will encourage a lot of the businesses that are currently in the informal sector to move to the formal sector, so to speak, such that government needs to find the carrots and the sticks that with which they will encourage businesses to grow, with which they will strengthen the framework that is available for these businesses. And as these businesses are strengthened, then they will also be expected to pay their taxes. So reforms are needed across those areas as well.
Government cannot do everything all alone. What the government should do is, it's possibly to provide enabling environment, for the private sector to actually drive the economy. And that is what the government is doing right away now in terms of various reforms put in place, and there's some other institutions, to support the effort of the government at bringing down the cost of doing business in Nigeria.
In other stories now, Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode inaugurated 3 boats for official use. This is to promote the use of Lagos inland waterways, encourage sustainable investments, and develop water transportation in the state. Correspondent Adedoja Salam Adeni reports.
25% of Lagos is water. The need to further encourage its usefulness is very paramount, and that is why the Lagos State government is inaugurating the 3 boats for official use.
We've discovered that sometimes we do not have the ability for our officials to go on the waterways to actually address issues that relate to people or relate to citizens that actually live alongside the waterways. And it's important that we put in the right perspective the economy that we can actually make to thrive on our waterways and the people living along the waterways, to bring them into proper perspective.
Governor Ambode and his commissioners also reiterated government's commitment to the integrated transport system in the state, as well as safety of lives and property.
We're so particular about safety, we're so particular about the future of everyone, and that's why we've decided also that we'll do a lot on channelization and the dredging of the waterways to make it more tolerable. At the end of the first quarter of 2018, and we believe strongly also that our own boats by government and the ones from the private sector will start to bed the waterways of Lagos, and we'll be able to use that to complement what it is that we have on our roads, and then we'll be able to use it to complement the future of what we are trying to plan for the rail system.
The state has identified right now, currently, 30 water routes. They'll be lated so you can see your direction. There will be security, there will be equipment on the waterway to gather all the data, the condition of the water, the depth, so as to minimize accidents.
What you've seen today are just about 4 of the luxury boats that the state owns, but there is about 7 more that are coming that will be for mass passengers. So it's a demonstration of the commitment of His Excellency to water transportation and to the boost in tourism that we expect in 2018.
When an incident occurs on the waterways, there is a jet ski that will move divers fast to the incident scene while the rescue boats are coming behind.
Now it's time for inspection. For 1.5 hours on water, Governor Ambode and his team inspected the ongoing channelization of the waterways and upgrade of jetties. From Ozumba Mbadiwe via Orange Island, the governor toured the Lekki foreshore.
Out of 24 million people living in Lagos, only 2 million Lagosians commute via the waterways. The remaining 22 million use the road, thereby causing human and vehicular traffic. This tour is to create awareness on the safety of the Lagos inland waterways and to increase the number of people using it. Adedoja Salam Adeniyi, TVC News, Lagos.
Crude oil prices hit a fresh 2-year high on Monday, following the arrest of 11 Saudi Arabian princes and some oil dealers by the country's Anti-Corruption Commission. At the London market, the Brent crude sells for $62 per barrel. For the OPEC basket, Brent price steadies at $59 per barrel. Well, that's a wrap on the show. Sorry we didn't get signals from the Nigerian stock market, but join us again tomorrow for another incisive and topical issues discussion, Business Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Todulokpe Ogunjobi.